Hello, students, and welcome to the latest edition of English Screencasting. In this screencast, I'm going to go over what we talked about in class today in terms of what you should be doing in your introduction and conclusion and how to forge a good transition between sections or write a transitional paragraph to help tie sections together. So let's start with the introduction. So at this point, you should have completed A, B, and C of each of your supporting details. You should have written your topic sentences explaining exactly what unifies all of the information you've given in this paragraph. And you should have connected each paragraph to the next and each section to the next section. So at this point in the outline, you are ready to begin writing your introduction because now you know what you are saying in your entire paper, and so therefore you can put a brief summary of each section of your paper into your introduction. So what you'll do is just very simply, you're summarizing each of the main points. So each of the Roman numeral headings are going to get a sentence in your introduction. Now when you write the sentence about that section in your introduction, you can't just put each sentence in there and leave them disconnected. So what you have to do is connect those two sections. Show how this idea that is being discussed in that section connects to this idea that is being discussed in the next section. And feel free to play around with structure here. You can see how different structures are going to impact your reader's perception and how that in turn is going to impact the overall rhetorical situation and effect. Once you do that, then you can write your thesis sentence. If there's any statement in your entire essay that you will find yourself writing and rewriting, it is this sentence. Make sure that it's clear. Make sure it's one section, one sentence. And it should combine all the ideas that you've briefly covered in your introduction, and it should explain the relationships between those ideas. And try to make it as concise as possible. So that being said, let's come down here and look at your conclusion. So I often say that your conclusion is your introduction backwards. And what I mean by that is that here at the very beginning of your conclusion, you're restating that thesis sentence. So you're not just copy and pasting. You're literally rewriting that sentence because your reader's understanding should have changed by the time they get to the conclusion. So this is your last chance to say this was the point that I was trying to make, this is why it's important. So then again, you would just come through, do a brief summary of each of your sections, transition to the ending, and then we have here what is known as a reverse hook or a clincher. This is kind of like that parting shot. It's the last sentence that really concludes everything with sort of a punchy one line. So you want to think of this sentence in particular as being that part that relates it back to the larger context of the world, that part that tells your audience what to do with the information that you've given them. Should they despair about this topic? Is there hope for the future? If there is hope, what is something that they can do? What can they go out and do with this information now that they know it? And so that's pretty much what you're doing in your introduction and conclusion. So let's say that you get down to your transition between two sources and you're finding that one sentence isn't really making it clear how these two sections, these two topics or these two sources speak to each other. So if that happens, give yourself a paragraph. So in your topic sentence, you're going to review all the topics in this section and explain how they are connected. So then you're going to go on to explain specifically how each topic works together to say something about your main topic. That's your thesis statement. And then you're going to explain how all those topics relate to the next section. So it's just a small transitional paragraph. This doesn't necessarily have to be 8 sentences. Most of your paragraphs are probably going to be pretty long, but they shouldn't go beyond 8 sentences. especially if there are a lot of compound and complex sentences in those paragraphs. You don't want to have one paragraph that takes up an entire page. You want to make sure that you're chunking your ideas pretty well. In terms of those larger paragraphs, the transitional paragraph will be comparably smaller, so it'll be comparably shorter. So when you write your transitional paragraph, you're simply trying to move from one supporting detail to the next section. So give yourself an entire paragraph of space to do that. That's what the transitional paragraph does. Now, this is not required. Under no circumstances is anything really required here. It's all what works best for your paper, how you can write your best paper, and how you can organize your thoughts and your sentences around your source information to get your best possible grade. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always ask me, you can text me, you can write me an email, or you can go to the Writing Center. The Writing Center is always there for you, okay?